You know what that sound means? If you follow Blue White Illustrated here on YouTube, Penn State has another commit in the class of 2023. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. That is Ryan Snyder, our recruiting insider, bringing you the inside information on Penn State football. Just a few days. We're in the final stretch for National Signing Day. Penn State gets another commit. So, Ryan, where are we going today?
Penn State gets running back number 2 in the class in Cameron Wallace from Montgomery County down in Georgia. Mount Vernon is the hometown. Some interesting stuff here with Wallace, and he is the true late riser, I guess you would say. There's always those senior risers every year. Cam had no FBS offers until September. I think Washington State was the first school to offer. A few others come into the mix eventually, and I think Penn State was, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in that ballpark when it comes to the schools that offer him. And really, once Penn State offered, it was clear that was the school who piqued his interest the most. He didn't immediately come and visit, but he came in early November. I believe it was, I want to say the Maryland game. I think it was 11, 12. What was that? Was that the Maryland game? I think it was the Maryland game.
Oh, you got me at a disadvantage. I'm bad with dates and times.
All good. I'm pretty sure it was the Maryland game. But, so he comes in November, and then really just following that visit, it was pretty clear that Penn State was the team to beat. He was talking about taking an official visit to Washington State. That didn't happen. He was also talking about, and then he did go and visit Georgia Tech for an official visit this past weekend. But I think since really mid last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sean and I were both hearing that this is pretty much Penn State's to lose. And sure enough, they get to hit their guy. So second running back in the class, of course, London Montgomery already committed from Scranton Prep. Of course, London tore his ACL. I don't want to say this is about that, because I think this is more so about Devin Ford and what could happen with Kevon Lee. I will say I kind of thought Kevon Lee. We know more about Kevon Lee by now, so the fact that we don't know anything tells me it sounds like Kevon's going to probably end up staying, which I know Penn State certainly wants him to do. But this is just about building that depth back up in the running back room. A couple of things I'll share real quick, T-Frank, before I throw it to you. His stats this year, pretty impressive. Averaged 9.6 yards per carry, 127 carries overall, 1,221 yards. I think it was like 13 touchdowns, something like that. But the one thing I would say whenever I talk to people about Cam, the common answer I've gotten literally from like 3 people I've asked in Lasch is, Cam Wallace is a damn good football player. Like literally, I've had multiple guys tell me that. And I think they see a lot in his defensive film as well. I mean,
yes.
Cam Wallace had 92 tackles this year, 10 tackles for loss, 2 picks, a couple pass breakups. Last year, he did the same. He didn't have the offensive yards that he had this year. Excuse you, T-Frank. Sounds like you have a cold, my friend.
I didn't get to the mute button in time. I'm sorry.
You almost got there, buddy. Almost. You're toughing it out right now. But 777 yards rushing last year. 7 touchdowns. What an interesting stat there. On 75 carries, by the way. 10.4 yards per carry last year. So he's consistently done it on the ground the last 2 years. I think he had, multiple forced fumbles, 70 plus tackles last year. I mean, there were a lot of really good stats on both sides of the ball that I know Penn State liked as well. And then maybe the most important stat of them all, 10, 5, 6, 100 meters. I mean, that is incredible speed. Go ahead, T-Frank. Throw it to you.
Speed. Thank you very much. One thing I want to do is I'm going to throw this up here again and address this of the I'm actually going to keep it with you for a second. You see here on the On3 index, 1100th nationally in the consensus, 81 in running back, and in Georgia, the 115th. That's in the On3 consensus. On3 has him significantly higher, running back 44th, Georgia 67th, but still not ranked in the On300. So this is level of competition, level of exposure, correct? Because, we watched the film. I threw that up here on damn good football player is the right way to describe him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he plays in 1A in Georgia. I mean, Georgia 1A, though, is like maybe 4A here. I mean, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. Certainly plays small school football in Georgia. But, I mean, Georgia is one of those places where in a 10-mile stretch, you got a bunch of FBS players. So I would say this. he was a late riser, right? I mean, we weren't even talking about Cam Wallace until September, October. We've only done on three, I should say, has only really updated the ratings once since then. And even then, I don't know how much Cam was on the radar. He's an 88 right now in the on three. You know, look at those little ratings, 88, 89, 90. And 88 is a high 3-star. I need to catch up with, obviously, Charles Power, those guys, kind of see how far they have evaluated him so far. But right, when you compare it to, I mean, Rivals has him as a 5.5, 24/7 has him as an 86 in their ratings. I'll be just very curious to see what all of these sites do. ESPN doesn't even have them rated yet, but I could see. I mean, obviously, with this commitment, that's going to grab people's attention. The 10.56 is going to grab people's attention the more they dig, and his film is very impressive. So I don't know if he's going to end up being an on 300 kind of guy. I wouldn't be shocked if he bumps up in the ratings a little bit though.
The next thing I want to ask you about, because this is just like you, this commitment has been very interesting in that I'm still digging into the film, because this has been very under the radar with all of the things that happened last week and some of the other profiles and high-profile players that have been coming and going and all of the stuff kind of at the top level. Cam has kind of quietly been a part of this conversation, but he hasn't been really the focus. So still digging into his film. 5'10", 170. From people you've talked to in Lasch, what is if there is any concern about size? I assume both he and London Montgomery a little bit undersized in the running back room, but with the guys they already have there, that's not necessarily a problem unless, you know how that works, unless you start losing running backs and you've got two guys that, I don't even know if I want to say undersized with Montgomery, with Cameron Wallace, but what's the feeling about his physical stature?
Yeah, so we got those measurements after he took his official visit, just from talking to people. I think if you go on some other sites, they have him listed as 6 foot. I think
that's what it says on his huddle.
Like that. Is that what it said? Yeah, that's not it. He's 5'10". He's a little over 5'10", I believe, is what it was. But he's 5'10", 170. I mean, from what I understand, is they love his speed. That's how they're going to use him. So I don't see him. I mean, if you just look at his frame, we got to see him obviously when he came up for the visit. He was in a jacket and everything too, so we didn't really get to see him too close. But there's certainly room to grow and progress and stack on muscle and all that. But the main reason they're bringing him in here is to find ways to get his speed, on the outside and find different ways to use him. So I've never had anybody say, there was concerns about size or any of those kind of things. I just have people continuously saying, this guy's really good. His film really stacks up. He came up for a great visit. Family was great. From an off the field perspective, they really thought he fit in well with their culture, their room, their coaches, all that good stuff. And then again, they just keep coming back to, I didn't even mention this, he was the all-region player of the year. I mean, there's a lot of awards he's winning as well. And then again, just, consistently, I think, again, averaging pretty much 10 yards per carry the last 2 years. There's a lot to like from a film perspective. And then, of course, you have that defensive film. By the way, he played quarterback as well. I didn't even mention that. He played quarterback, wide receiver, running back, played cornerback. So there's a lot of, they've just been able to see his athleticism in those different ways and playing different positions. And they feel really confident that even if he wasn't going to be a running back, I mean, I had one person last say Cam Wallace could play cornerback. I mean, they really truly believe that he's coming in to be a running back. But this is a player that they just find very interesting and want to get him in the system and see where things go. He's going to be a running back. I want to clarify that, but they feel really good about his athleticism.
So those kind of lead me through the conversation I want to have about Cam Wallace. Is that this level of athleticism? It's different. A 10.56 is not just speed, it's different speed. And the agility, and these are next level traits. So when we talk about being underranked, I firmly believe that, having watched about 10 minutes of his film, of not just the highlight stuff. The question is it the highlights? What are the highlights hiding? Is always the question I have when I go into a film evaluation. And with those numbers, 5'10", 170, a little bit underranked, what are the chinks in the armor? I haven't found any yet. What you see here is what he is. Now, the one thing I'll say is when you have hyper-athletic cheat codes, one of the things I'm always concerned is you get to the next level, are you still going to play like that? Are you going to follow the blocking scheme? Because, we're watching him run back kicks and break open these ridiculous runs, and they are the difference-making stuff that gets people out of their seat. But the little things, that's where you need to make your money. And as an athlete, Your Honor, I have very few questions here. This is him playing safety. This is some of the stuff that isn't on the highlight film. He likes to hit. He's physical. You talk about his ability, defensive back, slot corner, safety. Sure, I don't mind that. He's willing to run between the tackles, reads blocks well, runs through contact, and he must have like eel DNA because he is so slippery. He's one of those guys that's just hard to hit. And here he is, lead blocking for his quarterback. So, that toughness, the physicality, being a football player, everything that you said, and not that there's any, I don't think you should doubt people in Lasch when they tell Ryan things, but just checking it off of confirming and seeing it for yourself, this is what it looks like. He's got a good understanding and feel for angles as a running back. That's really important. And then, like I said, difference-making speed, and I think a really good feel for pull blocking. This is all very early in the process, but everything that I saw, I liked. All of my preconceived notions about guys that maybe are a little bit undersized and all those things that the cliches, none of them show up. So if you're looking at this and you see a 3-star and you feel like this is Penn State falling flat coming into signing day, I don't think that's the case. No. From what Ryan said, he doesn't think that's the case, and Penn State is not bringing in a guy just because they need a guy. They chose him specifically when they had a couple of options, correct?
Yes. I mean, so look, they made no secret about the fact that they really liked Chris Johnson out of South Florida. That fell through. Chris Johnson was expected to take an official visit. And Penn State canceled that official visit. Why? I don't know. Whether they just weren't getting the feedback they wanted. I don't know all the details there. I don't want to speculate too much. Penn State did bring in Kedrick Riscano this past weekend. Kedrick Riscano is right now ranked 103 in the nation by On3. He's ranked, I think, number 148 in the consensus. He is a consistent top guy. Penn State flat out chose Cam Wallace over Kedrick Riscano. They decided to. I don't know if Kedrick would have came here. Obviously, he committed to Ole Miss the other day. Ole Miss was always considered his favorite, but I was hearing all pretty much halfway through Kedrick's visit the other day. I think it was like Saturday night when I was texting with people that Cam Wallace was the guy that they were going to pursue. I think we even put that on the board right after that visit weekend. So this was absolutely Penn State's decision to pursue Cam Wallace over Kedrick, and whatever happened with Chris Johnson happened, but they like Cam Wallace a lot, and like I said, I really want to see what Charles and those guys do with these ratings are going to get updated one more time. They get updated after the All-American games. That's in early January. I would expect by, January 10th to the 15th, somewhere in that ballpark, they'll get updated. There are always late risers like this who, I don't see him becoming a top 200 guy or anything like that, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if he moves up in the ratings, especially when, and this isn't because he commits to Penn State, but when you do commit to a school like Penn State, it grabs everybody's attention. It gives you a reason to dig on that player more and more. And, we've seen examples of this many times over the years.
Everything else you want to know about Cameron Wallace, the newest commit to Penn State football, find at bluewhiteillustrated.com. Sign up for just $10 and get access all the way until next football season. Of course, subscribe to Blue White Illustrated on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you don't miss breaking news. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. Stay tuned. Tons of stuff coming at Blue White Illustrated.